Hello and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host, Samit Paul, and in this episode, we're taking a look back at Villa's disappointing 3-1 defeat to Newcastle in the FA Cup on Saturday evening. Now, it all started pretty well for us. Tammy Abraham gave us an early lead with the absence of VAR proving to be beneficial, and that wouldn't be the last big decision that went in our favour in this game. However, Marco Bizot's red card just before half-time changed the entire complexion of the game, as unfortunately we couldn't hold on and eventually bowed out of the FA Cup. Now, as with every game, I'll be discussing my 5 key talking points from this one as we have a deeper dive into our defeat to Newcastle. But first, let's have a listen to the boss, Unai Emery, and his thoughts on the game as he spoke to Villa TV.
Fairly thankful for the supporters. Really fantastic how they were today transmitting their energy. And we felt it, and the players, well, they felt they needed to show their wishes and the energy as well to transmit the supporters, and it was a really fantastic moment. We started winning, we started as well playing in good form, good mood, and the players as well competing fantastic. We had the red card, of course. It was coming more difficult moment for the second half, but we continued competing, and the supporters, they were helping us, and we were more or less being resilient. But when they scored the first goal, a little bit more difficult, and the second goal, and even like that, we were competing and we tried it, but was not enough because Newcastle is a very fantastic team, and they are as well contender in this competition. And we lost. After we lost, of course, with the circumstances we had, the red card, I think we must analyze this match and this competition. In everything we are improving. And today I am not happy, but I watched some things in the players or in the group, in the squad, really can help us for the next weeks and future in Europa League and in Premier League. And today, how responded the supporters as well, wow, with the energy they transmit us. I think next week, the same against Leeds United. Next week. Yeah, it's fantastic. Tammy Abraham today scored goal. He scored 1 goal, but it was not 2 weeks ago for VAR. And today he scored. He worked fantastic, and his attention is going quick. And we will need his help and his commitment, his performance like today, and of course adding more players for our next weeks and months for those 2 competitions we're going to face. Really being excited and motivated for it.
That was Unai Emery speaking to Villa TV after our 3-1 defeat to Newcastle in the FA Cup. So on to my 5 key talking points then, and let's start with a positive, and that's Tammy Abraham impressing and making his case to be our starter up front. Now, he certainly ticks that box in this game for me, whether that's a more consistent presence in the starting 11 or at least being in a more prominent role for us. I thought his work rate was excellent throughout his time on the pitch. He closed down Newcastle players relentlessly and applied pressure in their half of the pitch. And his touch, his quality allowed him to link things together really effectively as a focal point leading the line. Of course, he topped all that off with his goal, and yes, replays suggested that he was offside, but with no VAR it stood. But hopefully he'll have a decisive part to play for us between now and the end of the season, particularly with Ollie Watkins still searching for form and struggling at the minute. I think Abraham did make a really strong case in this game to be the starter for us against Leeds next weekend. As Emery said after the game, he worked fantastically and his adaptation is going quickly. We will need his help, his commitment and his performance like today. I think he should be delighted with Abraham's performance and what he contributed in this one. And it was great to see him at least give us a positive when he was leading the line in the first half and the beginning of the second. On to the second point, and this is where things start to sort of go towards the negatives, and that starts with Marco Bizot's red card, which changed the game. Now, there's no doubt that Bizot's poor decision to come racing out of his area and commit the foul that led to his sending off changed this game entirely. I think Leon Bailey needs to share a slight portion of that responsibility for the pass that sort of led to the Newcastle counter-attack and put Bizot in that difficult position. But I think even then, there was no need for him to come racing out. Villa absolutely benefited from poor officiating and the absence of VAR in this game, but that ultimately counted for nothing in the end, as Bizot's red card just before the break really put us on the back foot. It swung momentum in the favour of Newcastle, and it was just a real shame that was sort of the defining moment and factor in this contest. Now, Bizot has been a reliable option to come in when we needed him this season, He'll be wishing he could take this one back, as it certainly, for me at least, cost us a place in the next round of the FA Cup, with Newcastle struggling to offer anything prior to his dismissal. I thought we looked in control. We were limiting them successfully. We were looking a threat with our build-up play and creating openings. But as soon as that red card happened and going into the second half, you just felt that momentum change. And we were really on the back foot from that point onwards. So massive moment. And unfortunately for Bizot, it's a really costly error from him. On to the third point, and that is Luca Digne's drop-off in form. Now, his poor defending against Bournemouth was still fresh in the memory going into this one, and I felt that Luca Digne put in another really disappointing display this weekend. Now, I felt he was fortunate in the first half not to be sent off after making a dangerous foul. I think if VAR was in play, they would have looked at that again, and I think he would have been sent off personally. Whether or not you agree that it's a red card, a sending off offence, I just think the way that the referees are officiating games, particularly when VAR get involved, I think they would have sent him off for that one. So he was fortunate with that. And then his good luck continued in the second half after the interval, as his handball was wrongly judged to be committed outside of the box. But I think beyond those moments, there's a real drop-off in his form for me and his reliability in both phases. I think you look at the potential inspiration that he could have had from wearing the captain's armband. That didn't help in this game. And he has to now bounce back with a positive response next time he's selected to feature by Emery. But I think his defending is dropping off. I think there were moments in this game where he had time and space to really put in a decent cross. That's one of his strengths, the crossing ability to set up players in the box. And he was nowhere near finding a teammate. And like I say, coupled with the defensive deficiencies and the weaknesses that I'm seeing, for me, there's not even an argument anymore that Ian Maatsen is the number one choice at left back when he's fit. Yes, I know Emery still has to rotate. He has to rest players. He has to keep everyone involved. And that's not to say Luca Digne is suddenly a really bad player. But I just don't think it's even a contest anymore. And I think Ian Maatsen is clearly the number one choice, with Luca Digne sort of dipping off at this point. On to the fourth point, and that is Douglas Luiz must get up to speed quickly. Excellent assist in this game. Really, really nicely weighted and lofted pass over the top to find Tammy Abraham for his goal. But for me, I think there are still question marks over Luiz's ability to be that influential midfield orchestrator that we need him to be in the absence of Yuri Tielemans. As in my opinion, I think he looks well off the pace currently. Now, he did show glimpses of what we need from him in this game. He zips and passes between the lines into the feet of the likes of Morgan Rogers, which allows us to break at speed, play through teams, and really get on the front foot quickly. But he's not consistent or frequent enough with that yet. I understand that he's not played a lot of football. He had some poor spells at Juventus and Nottingham Forest since leaving us, and he does need that sort of consistency in playing games, getting up to speed, and sort of getting peak condition, sharpness, and top form. But for me, so far, I think we're seeing the massive gulf in the gap between him and Tielemans in what they do in that particular role for us. He was booked after just 4 minutes in this one. Loose play, in possession, committed the foul, got booked, and that obviously must have impacted and influenced his game at that point after. He's too slow in his distribution at times when we need to move the ball quicker. He is the main person that has to get on the ball in deeper areas to make us tick, and I don't think he's doing that effectively enough yet. And that's not to say he can't do it and he won't do it, but at the moment, I know we're only 3 games in since he returned, but we need more from him. That's a simple fact for me, in my opinion, and we're not getting that just yet. Also, I don't think he was committed enough in putting his body on the line, full-blooded blocks to deny Tonali's 2 strikes. I think he turned his back on one of them, and that sort of led to the deflection, which went in. The second one, he was slow to get to him, but again, it was a fantastic finish, so I'm not just sitting here blaming Luiz for everything entirely. But I think he's got to step his game up, and we desperately need more in midfield with Tielemans, McGinn and Kamara out. Fifth and final point is the cup exit is a major disappointment in our pursuit of silverware. Now, on one hand, some of you may argue that our exit from the FA Cup, coupled with our depleted squad currently, effectively allows us to focus on our priorities, which is a top 4, top 5 finish in the Premier League and winning the Europa League. And that's a fair assessment. Don't disagree with it, but surely it doesn't entirely remove the disappointment of not going further in this particular competition, as I felt that we had a chance to really kick on and reach the latter stages again after last year. It's crystal clear now what our remaining objectives are this season. It's hope that we can remain in the hunt to achieve those while we wait to welcome back key individuals from injury. That will give us a much needed boost, but it's very, very clear now that we've got to kick on and make sure we secure that top 4, top 5 finish in the Premier League book ourselves a spot in the Champions League next season. Yes, of course, another route is by winning the Europa League, but just winning silverware, ticking off that trophy box and ending the drought, that would be another massive bonus for us. So hopefully we can achieve those two things. But as I say, the FA Cup for me was a realistic piece of silverware that we could have targeted to end our trophy drought, look to build on last season's journey, but unfortunately it wasn't to be again this year. Emery speaking after the game, as you heard earlier, today we're not happy, but I watched some things in the squad that can help us for the future in the Europa League and Premier League. We'll have players coming back in the next few weeks and months, and the two competitions we're going to face, being excited and motivated for it. That's the ideal and perfect mentality and mindset, and hopefully that we can kick on in both those competitions and really, really push to make this end of the season very successful for us. So what were your talking points from our loss to Newcastle? Did you share my concerns over Digne and Luiz, or do you think I'm being too harsh? Should Tammy Abraham start over Ollie Watkins next weekend against Leeds? Let me know your thoughts. If you're listening on YouTube, leave your comments below. For those listening to the pod via Apple Podcasts, Spotify or other means, please head over to talkvilla.substack.com and get involved in the conversation over there. So that's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. A big thank you for taking the time to have a listen. Please subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening. That's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. If you've enjoyed listening, please give the episode a like, as it does make a difference as I try to grow the channel, or leave a review. Sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack for ad-free Villa news, opinions and analysis, all delivered directly to you. And there is also an option of a paid subscription for bonus content. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So that's Villa's run in the FA Cup this season over, and all eyes are now on the remaining Premier League fixtures and see how far we can go in the Europa League. Of course, the hope is that we want to finish in the top 4, top 5 to secure our place in the Champions League next season, while going all the way in the Europa League would not only give us that same achievement, but it would also end our trophy drought. Firstly, though, it's full focus on Leeds at home next weekend. I'm hoping we welcome back Matty Cash from injury, another week closer to getting McGinn and Tielemans back. But I'll be back after that game to discuss what will hopefully be a win and 3 important points in the league as we continue to try and fend off the chasing pack in that battle for Champions League qualification. But until then, up the Villa.